A very good morning, dear children. I hope you all are keeping healthy, happy, and fine. Today we will start our lesson with the mind map of the poem that we have done recently, that is The Sailor. Who is the writer of the poem? Rabindranath Tagore is the writer of the poem. Okay. What are the main characters of the poem? There are three characters in the poem. One is the boatman Madhu. What does boatman Madhu does? He moored the boat in the wharf of Rajganj, right? The poet or the speaker of the poem and his friend, poet's friend, what was his name? His name was Ashu. So there are three characters in the poem. Okay. From the poem, what can we conclude about the speaker or the poet? We can conclude that the poet is imaginative because I told you the entire poem is based on the imagination of the poet. He goes into the imaginary fairyland. He talks about fairyland, the kings, the strange kings, the desert of Tepanthar, the forge of Tirpurni, and crossing the seven seas and 13 rivers. All these are different elements of fairyland. So here we can understand that he is imaginative. He is friendly. Why is he friendly? Because he never wanted to go to the fairyland alone. He wanted to take his friend Ashu along with him. Isn't it? So we can say that he is friendly in nature. Emotional. Why is he emotional? Because he is emotional towards his mother. He is understanding the emotion of his mother and is asking his mother not to cry because he is not going into an exile like Lord Ramchandra did. He is going only for one day. Clear? He is ambitious. From which line can we know that he is ambitious? I would be the prince. So he is ambitious. He wants to be the prince of the story. So we can say that the characters of the poet is he is imaginative, he is friendly, he is emotional, and he is also ambitious. Clear? Now we come here. Before the poetic devices, we will do this. Where is the location? The location of the poem is at the wharf of Rajganj. Wharf means the place where the boats are tied, right? So the poet is there at the wharf of Rajganj and he sees the boats tied there and then he dreams about all the stories. Okay. Now we come to the poetic device. Which is the poetic device that is used in this poem? It is simile. What do we mean by simile? Comparing two entire different thing using words such as like and as. I have already explained you and you have also replied by giving examples of it. Now we come to the theme of the poet. What is the theme of the poet? The poet expresses the imaginative wandering of a young child who sees a boat at the wharf and thinks that it is such a waste to let the boat stand there for days. So here the poet is actually talking about the imaginative wandering of a little child. How? He sees a boat standing or tied at the wharf of Rajganj and seeing that he imagines so many things. He goes to the world of fantasy. He goes to the world of fairyland and he imagines so many things. So this poet expresses the imaginative wandering of the young child. Clear? He imagines where he would go and what he would do if once he was given permission to take the boat and sail. So he thinks that which are the places where he can go by taking the boat, where he can go. He can cross the 7 seas and the 13 rivers. He can he can go visit the land of the strange king. He can pass the ford of Tirupurni and the desert of Tepanthar. So these are the different places that the child imagines to go. And what he would do? He would laden the boat with whatever he feels like. Isn't it? He says that. See, here he says, and fill my boat with whatever I like. So he will laden the boat with whatever he feels like, and he will be the prince of the story. Clear? So he feels whatever he feels like he will do, and whatever he wants, wherever he wants, he can go. Once he is given permission to take the boat and sail. Clear? Now we will discuss the plot. It is an imaginary poem which narrates the child's imagination about a fairyland. So the plot around which the poem revolves is the imagination of a little child. The entire poem revolves around only one thing, that is the imagination of a little child. Imagination about what? Imagination about a fairyland. Clear? He wants to take his friend along with him so that his friend can also experience the beauty of a fairyland. He does not want to go alone. He wants to take his friend Ashu along with him so that he is not deprived of the beauty of a fairyland. A land full of fairies, full of strange things, fantasies. So he wants his friend to enjoy equally the beauty of the fairyland. Next, the poem takes us back to our childhood, where we also dreamt about going to fairyland, meet the fairies and be the hero in the eyes of others. So now, reading this poem, what can we conclude? We can say that we also once dreamt of going into the fairyland. Isn't it, children? Don't you all dream of going into the fairyland? When you see Cinderella, when you see Snow White, don't you feel like dressing up beautifully like Cinderella? We all, isn't it? Similarly, some might be thinking that he will be the hero of the story by becoming superpower like Spider-Man and I don't know what an Iron Man and what else are there. And you want to become the hero of that story by saving the whole world. And then everybody will say, oh my God, Spider-Man has come. Don't you all think like this? Yes, we all think. What are these? These are the thoughts that take us to the fairyland, to the imaginary land. Isn't it, children? We all dwell at times into this imaginary world, and it feels so beautiful when we go into this imaginary land. Okay, so the poem also takes us back to our childhood, where we also dreamt about going to fairyland, meet the fairies, and be the hero in the eyes of others. Now, there are two terms which are to be highlighted: 7 seas and 13 rivers. This term has a special mention in Bengali fairy tales, which means a distance too far. You can imagine 7 seas. Crossing 7 seas is such a big deal. So, crossing 7 seas and 13 rivers and then coming back on the same day. So, that can only happen in a fairy tale, isn't it? Again, desert of Tepanthar. It generally refers to an isolated place haunted by evil spirits and ghosts. So the desert of Tepanthar is also refers to an isolated place or a far away place. A far away place. And this has got a special mention in Bengali children's literature. Clear? And it is also at times thought of that this place is haunted by evil spirits and ghosts. Is it clear? I hope it's clear to all of you children till here.